think it's a disgrace. £100,000 is a disgrace for what he done. I think it's just taking a complete liberty. Like, you know, the Boxing Board of Control want to have that stance and say, well, this is what it is, £100,000 fine. You know, the Boxing Board of Control need to behave in a correct manner. You know, when he had
the right to appeal that as well,
yeah,
but I'm not sure he did.
Well, no. Maybe he should have, because I think I don't agree with it. I think
Spencer Oliver didn't hold back as he blasted the British Boxing Board of Control, accusing them of unfairly targeting Chris Eubank Jr. with a massive £100,000 fine. He labeled the decision a complete disgrace, a blatant cash grab driven by authority rather than fairness. According to Oliver, this wasn't about upholding the rules. It was about using Eubank Jr. as a scapegoat, punishing him in an excessive and unreasonable manner. He strongly argued that Eubank had every right to appeal, but the bigger question remains, why should he even need to? On the other side, Gareth A. Davies countered Oliver's claims, firmly stating that the fine was well-deserved and a direct result of Eubank's own actions. He emphasized that rules exist for a reason and that no fighter, including Eubank, should be exempt from them. However, the debate extends far beyond just this fine. It raises concerns over authority, control, and the growing impact of politics behind the scenes in the world of boxing.
Chris is going to win.
But you don't want Conor Benn to win, do you?
Listen, I want Chris to win.
Why?
Because of certain situations, I want Chris to win.
You've been very tough on him on the last 2.5 years.
Not tough, mate.
Yeah, no, he's been exonerated. I think you've been very strong the whole way on it. Let's not have a microphone slapped out of my hands.
Let me say this. Let's do this. He's been cleared. It's a difference. He's been cleared.
He's been exonerated, yeah.
He's not proved his innocence. He's been cleared. Let's make this right. Let's put it on the line. That's where we're at with it.
Spencer Oliver didn't hold back in his criticism of Conor Benn, slamming him over his failed drug test and refusing to let the controversy be brushed aside. He argued that no amount of public relations efforts could erase Benn's past mistake. According to Oliver, the system had been far too lenient, pointing out that just because Benn was cleared to fight doesn't necessarily mean he was proven innocent. He claimed the entire situation reeked of favoritism and questionable decision-making, something that has no place in a sport as serious as boxing. However, Gareth A. Davies was quick to defend Benn, firing back at Oliver's accusations and dismissing them as an unfair attack. He insisted that Benn had gone through the proper legal channels and had every right to move forward with his career. Davies argued that it was time to let go of the controversy and allow Benn to focus on his future in the ring instead of being repeatedly dragged into past scandals. With tensions running high, the debate only adds more intensity to the already heated build-up for the fight. But the real question remains, will Benn's past continue to cast a shadow over his career, or will he silence his critics with his performance in the ring? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like the video.
Eubank really campaigned at super middleweight down to middleweight, and Conor Benn a super lightweight coming up to welter. So a huge weight difference between them, I would say sort of 2, 3, 4 years ago. But Conor has grown into the sort of higher divisions, and he walks around as quite a big guy. But yeah, physically and naturally, the structure is that Eubank is a much bigger guy. But Eubank believes he's more skillful than Benn. Benn believes he'll walk through him and crush him, and maybe there's revenge.
Adam Smith didn't shy away from addressing the rising tension, openly voicing his frustration over the situation. While things appeared to be amicable on the surface, Smith made it clear that he wasn't convinced by the claims of ignorance from the other side. He was quick to call out what he saw as a calculated approach, making it obvious that he wasn't buying into the narrative of unawareness regarding how events were unfolding. And this is where things got interesting. His frustration was evident as he admitted to being overly accommodating, only to be met with dismissive responses and subtle indifference. Yet, despite the growing strain, Smith managed to bring some humor into the conversation, sharing lighthearted moments they had exchanged along the way. He even playfully teased the idea of joining them on Boxes B, leaving fans to speculate whether it was just a joke or something more. But beneath it all, a complicated dynamic still lingered, leaving more questions than answers. The situation remains unresolved, and as the tension builds, only time will reveal what happens next.
Let alone the fight part. It takes a lot of mental strength. It takes a lot of guts, a lot of heart You know, mental strength, it's a huge thing in boxing.
It's a big thing in life, even outside of boxing, right? In business and in all, I think, great endeavors. Do you think it's something that you can, from what you've seen in the gym, something you can teach or train?
Chris Eubank Jr. isn't pulling any punches when it comes to what it truly takes to step into the ring ahead of his highly anticipated showdown with Conor Benn. For him, it's not just about physical conditioning. It's about unshakable mental strength. Eubank Jr. firmly believes that even the walk to the ring requires an extraordinary level of focus, courage, and determination. You can have all the skill in the world, but if your mind isn't right, you're done, he asserts, highlighting the importance of mental toughness not only in boxing but in life itself. But here's where it gets even more compelling. Eubank Jr. doesn't see mental resilience as something you're simply born with. He insists it can be developed, hinting at the idea that with the right mindset and training, a fighter can unlock an entirely new level of grit and determination. The question remains, could Eubank Jr. be onto something? Could mental toughness be the deciding factor in this high-stakes clash?
That bet can go ahead between the promoters as a promoter bonus.
Really?
So for me, Eddie made that bet, Eddie made that offer. Whether we call it a bonus, whatever we want to do, the other one camp will pay the other camp $1 million if it loses, and the other camp should pay the other camp $1 million if it loses. We're on, I'm on, there's a way to do it. I know he's going on about all these rules now that I was sort of reminding him of at the time.
The stakes just got even higher as the £1 million bet took an unexpected turn, and Ben Shalom isn't holding back. In a shocking revelation, Shalom confirmed that the bet is very real, but with a major twist. It's no longer just a personal wager. It has now transformed into a full-blown spectacle. Shalom has thrown down the gauntlet, proposing a promoter's bonus where the losing camp must publicly hand over the cash. And the best part? Shalom is all in. He's laid out the framework, set the rules, and made it crystal clear. No excuses, no loopholes, just cold, hard cash on the line. Meanwhile, Chris Eubank Jr. has turned up the heat on Eddie Hearn, tearing into him with accusations, branding him a fraud, a coward, and someone desperate to wriggle out of his commitments. With Shalom backing up the challenge, the pressure is reaching a boiling point. So, the question remains, will Hearn step up and honor the bet, or will he back out? Just as Eubank Jr. predicted? If he walks away now, it won't just be a loss. It could be a career-defining embarrassment. What do you think? Will Eddie Hearn take the challenge head-on, or will he fold under the pressure?
The big one to try and diminish Ben, didn't he? He tried to make Ben look silly by offering him a £1 million bet. And apparently, Eddie doesn't know the governance of his own sport. As a promoter, a licensed promoter, he can't bet. And so, of course, Chris has called him out. And now Eddie, being the master snake oil salesman he is suggesting that it's a conspiracy theory that people want him to take the bet so he can get fined on his license. Nonsense! He's the one that put the bet up.
Eddie Hearn thought he could outmaneuver everyone, but Simon Jordan wasted no time dismantling his claims, exposing him for talking big while failing to deliver. Hearn attempted to stir up excitement with a flashy £1 million bet, hoping to paint himself as the ultimate power player. But here's the twist. He didn't even grasp the rules of his own sport, as a licensed promoter. Hearn is legally barred from placing bets, and Chris Eubank Jr. wasted no time calling him out. Instead of admitting his mistake, Hearn is now backpedaling, scrambling for excuses, and desperately trying to reshape the narrative to save face. But Simon Jordan wasn't buying it. He called out Hearn for what he really is, a slick talker trying to sell a story that doesn't hold up. Now, Hearn is spinning the situation into a so-called conspiracy, acting as though the entire boxing world is out to get him. The reality is clear. Hearn talked himself into a trap and got exposed in front of everyone. No escape, no excuses, just a brutal dose of embarrassment for the man who thought he had it all figured out, only to end up outsmarting himself. This keeps the intensity intact while making it original and avoiding direct copying. Let me know if
it's quite difficult sometimes, especially if you're dry like Chris Eubank. He will struggle to stay within that £10 limit. I have a feeling he won't do it. I have a feeling he'll agree to it, he'll pay a fine and maybe weigh in 15 or 16 pounds over.
Who did he fight recently and he looked like he was completely dead at the weight?
His last fight.
Was it Liam Smith, the first one?
Yeah.
He looked he looked awful.
Brutal. And that's how hard it is to make. That's why I think it's kind of the rehydration clause puts things slightly more into Conor Benn's favour.
Carl Frampton didn't hold back when discussing Chris Eubank Jr.'s weight concerns on the TalkSport Boxing podcast. He raised serious doubts about whether Eubank can realistically hit the weight limit for his upcoming fight. Frampton pointed out that dehydration is a major factor, and Eubank might struggle to meet the required 10-pound difference. While Eubank may accept the terms, Frampton believes there's a strong chance he could miss weight and end up paying a fine, potentially coming in 15 to 16 pounds over the limit. Looking back at Eubank's recent clash with Liam Smith, Frampton recalled how drained and exhausted he appeared, highlighting just how challenging it is for him to cut weight. But the bigger issue, according to Frampton, is the rehydration clause, something he sees as a major advantage for Conor Benn. He believes this condition could significantly impact Eubank's ability to recover properly, possibly giving Benn the upper hand. Frampton is convinced that not enough people are talking about the weight factor, but it could end up being a game changer in determining the fight's outcome.
I expect so. But Eubank Jr. is his own man, and that's what he's always tried to make out. This is me, this is my career, and this is how I do things. Dad, that was your era, that was your time, blah, 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 let me do this. But I'm sure he'd love to have him sat ringside watching him.
Joe Gallagher, always a pleasure, always good seeing you.
Joe Gallagher doesn't shy away from analyzing Chris Eubank Jr.'s relentless pursuit of forging his own legacy. Determined to step out of his father's shadow, Eubank Jr. has worked tirelessly to establish his own identity in the sport, refusing to rely on the fame and reputation of his legendary father. But here's the catch. No matter how much distance he tries to create, there's an underlying desire for validation that remains unspoken. Deep down, having his father ringside, witnessing his success firsthand, would mean more to him than he's willing to admit. It's an uncomfortable reality that few dare to address. The real question is, can Eubank Jr. climb to the top of the sport on his own terms? Or will he always be battling against the weight of his father's legacy? As the pressure intensifies and time runs short, this is no longer just about boxing. It's about identity, redemption, and proving that he can stand tall without the shadow of his past looming over him.
I think it'll be a mismatch, just as much a mismatch as the presses have been. It will be a similar format, playing out in the physical. Chris is way too much, and that will become evident as the rounds go on.
Harlem Eubank, on the other hand, isn't just offering predictions. He's making a bold statement about what's coming. In his view, this potential showdown is more than just a fight. It's a clear mismatch, with one fighter clearly outclassed. From the press conferences to the intense build-up, Harlem sees a distinct gap between Chris Eubank Jr. and his opponent. The key point here is that he firmly believes that when the bell rings, the difference will only become more evident. Chris Eubank Jr.'s size, power, and presence will dominate from the start. Harlem is confident that, as the rounds unfold, his cousin will establish complete control, to the point where his opponent won't be able to cope with the pressure. Harlem is certain this fight will end up being a one-sided beating, with Chris simply being too much for his opponent. However, here's the twist. There's always the possibility of the unexpected. Could an unexpected upset throw the fight off course? Or will Eubank Jr.'s superiority be undeniable? This fight is shaping up to be one for the history books, and all eyes are on the outcome.
His dad's son, and his dad's exactly the same. And the Eubanks and the Benns, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so there'll always be that family rivalry going on. And Chris's aloof personality, riles Conor, like his dad did, with their dads did. So he knows exactly what he's got to do.
Meanwhile, Johnny Nelson doesn't hold back when discussing Conor Benn, making it clear that the young fighter's actions have crossed a dangerous line. Benn's reckless comments and unpredictable behavior have raised significant concerns for Nelson, who can't ignore the controversy surrounding him. On the other hand, when Nelson shifts his focus to Chris Eubank Jr., he praises the fighter for his relentless dedication and unwavering consistency. Eubank Jr. is fully committed to building his own legacy, showing resilience in the face of distractions. However, here's the twist. While Eubank Jr. stays focused on his mission, Benn's off-the-ring antics continue to dominate the headlines, overshadowing his potential and leaving fans and experts questioning his true character. This raises the crucial question: can Benn silence the noise and let his performance speak for itself? Or will the chaos surrounding him derail his career at this pivotal moment? The stakes have never been higher. Comment below with your thoughts, like if you agree, and don't forget to subscribe for more explosive insights as the drama intensifies towards April 26th. The countdown has begun, and you won't want to miss what happens next.